What is good, everyone? Welcome to KGW Sports Extra. My name is Orlando, alongside the one and only Art Edwards. Another jam-packed week of sports, especially in the Pacific Northwest, specifically football. Let's start with the big story.
Right.
Jonathan Smith leaves Oregon State, his alma mater, to be the head coach at Michigan State. Seeing the pictures come out on social media, him touching down. He is now there rocking Spartan green. Let that marinate for a minute, Beaver Nation. Art, just your initial reaction to Jonathan Smith's decision to head to Michigan State.
You know, when I saw that Saturday morning, I was really surprised that it came so quickly. Maybe not so much that he decided that he was going to move on, because there's so much uncertainty around what's going to happen with Oregon State's football team and the entire athletic department. So that didn't surprise me so much that he left, just that it was so quick.
Yeah. Totally. This happened within hours, basically, of Oregon State falling to Oregon in the rivalry game, 31-7. And you're wondering, there was smoke around this story for a little while, and I think a lot of us kind of just said, there's no way he's going to stick it out. He's going to see this through, and at least wait to see what happens with Oregon State and just all of the uncertainty from conference realignment to a schedule and all those things. So it's understandable to see why he was going to leave. I'm just surprised that it happened when it did as well.
Yeah, that's what really got me. I mean, now he gets to play the same teams he's been playing for the last 6 years, as head coach at Oregon State. I do think that the situation in a lot of ways at Michigan State is similar to what it would be at Oregon State. You got a team that's really down right now, but you also have a program that's sort of in the same position that Oregon State is. In that conference, they don't necessarily get all the blue chip players, so they have to make do with what they can get and develop those players, which is exactly what he did at Oregon State. So I think it's really, it's really similar to what he had when he was down there in Corvallis.
Oh, I totally get why he was the ideal candidate for Michigan State, because he's done it before already. When he took over the job at Oregon State, that 2017 squad won one game. And by 2022, he had them winning 10. This year, he had them ranked as high as 10th in the AP poll. So I totally understand what Michigan State saw in Jonathan Smith, because they need just that, a reset and a guy that knows how to build a program from the ground up. And he attracts a certain type of player.
He does.
He doesn't necessarily need I'm sure he would want
the
five-star guys, but he knows how to build a program. He can invest in talent. And I want to flip the script here and talk about Oregon State for a minute, because they have so many challenges ahead for them, and I'm wondering, where do they go from here?
Well, that's that is the question right now when we talk about what are they going to do for a coach, a permanent coach. Do they go to someone who's already been a head coach somewhere, maybe hasn't had the kind of success that you would hope in some of the places, but still they think is a quality coach and somebody that could help the program? Or do you give somebody a shot who hasn't been a head coach before? If it was me, I might try to do that. If you couldn't get someone like the coach at San Jose State has connections with Oregon State, if you can't get him to come and you don't have anyone on the staff that you feel like you want to promote to the head coach for permanent status, then I wonder if you go and you get somebody who either hasn't been a head coach before or is at a lower level and very successful at the lower level and looking to move up. Yeah,
that's going to be an interesting angle to follow, because like you said, a lot of the fan base right now wants somebody with connection to Corvallis or Oregon State, somebody who's been in that building before or who has been around the school at some point. And so that makes sense why Brennan would be a guy, why Coach Bray would be a popular pick as well, because of that connection. There needs to be somebody who values a lot of the same things that Oregon State does. But time is of the essence, and don't be surprised if this gets done quickly, because not only are they facing the fact that, like, we've got to figure out who our coach is so they can coach the players, but also they're trying to retain a ton of players and also try and see who they can keep on this coaching staff. The transfer portal opens for business in about a week on December 4th. That is a short period of time, and you do have to get something worked out. We know the schedule is not going to be worked out by then, but you at least need to know who's going to be running this team, who's going to be the man in charge, and what's the staff going to look like. So they need to be able to get that done pretty quickly, and hopefully not lose too many of the players. I guess players can go in and they can change their minds and they can come back out. So you need to get it done quickly, but you might have a little more leeway than
than some people would think right off the top.
It's such a punch to the gut.
It is.
For Beavers fans, for people that care about the program, because it's just another blow to this program, with a program that is just facing so much unfairly.
Yeah.
It's tough. I felt so bad. It was an emotional time for a lot of Beavers fans who are going through it, on top of losing the rivalry game.
Oh, yeah, on top of that. I have to say, what? I have enjoyed covering Jonathan Smith. I like him. I think he's genuine. He's done a great job with that team. I can't root for him if he's part of Spartan Nation. I went to Michigan. I went to the University of Michigan. There is nothing good about Green. No, I do wish him the best, and I think he's going to be really successful there, and they're going to love him in East Lansing, and the rest of the Big Ten better look out, because he's going to do what he did at Oregon State there as well.
Fantastic coach, smart guy, knows what he's doing.
Yep.
I agree with you. He's going to have that program
within a couple of years, probably.
It's going to take him a couple of years, just like Oregon State. So, I think that's a good way to wrap up this segment. Obviously, there is so much more to be determined within Oregon State, and now they have to add
that too.
Head coach to the top of the list within that program. But I don't envy the job that Scott Barnes has to do right now.
I don't either.
It is a tough place to be at Oregon State.
Yes, it is.
Let's stay in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 Championship Game is set. The Oregon Ducks taking down Oregon State in Eugene, 31-7, in front of the fourth biggest crowd ever at Autzen Stadium. Nearly 60,000 in the house. Atmosphere electric. Fantastic just energy to be a part of, to see everybody come together for one final rivalry game in the Pac-12 as we know it. Just your initial thoughts on knowing that that's it.
You know what? It hurts, to know that the Pac-12 really isn't going to exist moving forward, at least not what we know of the Pac-12. I grew up in the Bay Area when it was the Pac-8. My dad, my brother, and I went to games when we could see Anthony Davis playing for USC and things like that. So, it's got a long history, and I'm familiar with that history. I've watched it, I've lived it, watched those games on TV and things like that. So I really do hate to see it go away.
Yeah, it's such a sad time when you think back to more than 100 years of history. And within that rivalry game, I know there's been reports that Oregon is working on it and trying to keep it alive. And John Canzano came on the show and talked to us a little bit about what he's hearing. And he was reporting that Oregon has identified their schedule on the 14th of October, I believe, or September of 2024, when they face Boise State. They're trying to bump Boise State out, whether that means either paying Boise State or working a deal on a home and home to then insert Oregon State there. But it's not the same. We all know it. It's not the end of the year game that has certain stakes on the line like this year did, but there is an attempt to do it, and Canzano believes that they will get it done, and that Oregon State will play again in the future, like the Apple Cup was able to work out with Washington.
5 more years at the very least. I hope that they do, and I'm with you. And John, I believe they will get this worked out. I certainly hope so. You hate to see any kind of a long-time rivalry go away, so you don't want that to happen, and I think they'll be able to figure it out.
So, Art, there is one more Pac-12 game to be played, as we know, the Conference of Champions, and that is the Pac-12 Championship Game in Las Vegas, Friday night. Number 6 Oregon, number 4 Washington, the sequel to a month ago-ish, give or take, a classic that came down to the final kick in a 36-33 Washington victory. Vegas odds makers favoring Oregon by 9.5 in Las Vegas. Your thoughts on Oregon being heavy favorites?
Yeah, I'm surprised at that number. I'm not surprised that Oregon is favored because the way the two teams played after the Oregon-Washington game, a few weeks ago. I mean, Oregon has just been stomping through everybody like they're not even on the field almost. And Washington has struggled. I mean, they didn't score an offensive touchdown against Arizona State. They got a last-second field goal as time ran out to beat Washington State. So they've had a harder time of it than Oregon. Oregon's playing with a big-time chip on the shoulder.
For sure. They are squeaking by. Washington is. And For a moment there, it looked like they were going to lose that Apple Cup game. Lincoln Victor, the kid from Union High School, scoring the game-tying touchdown there.
Yep.
And it put a lot of pressure on Washington.
It did.
I guess the one thing you can say about the Huskies is that they are battle-tested.
They are.
They don't flinch. They play close games and find a way to win. And this is one of the best Pac-12s we've seen in years.
Yes.
And they ran the table with the toughest schedule in the Pac-12. Like the teams that they didn't play this year weren't the good ones.
No.
You know, I think they didn't play UCLA, who's respectable,
good,
and Cal, I believe.
Yeah. So,
But they went through Oregon, Arizona, Oregon State, Utah.
Yep, they went through all those.
They go 13-0 through the Pac-12.
Yes. So while I stand here and I say, you know what, they haven't played as well, the games have been closer, it sort of doesn't matter because the bottom line is they won those games. And as you said, they're battle tested. So they know how to win a close game. If this game ends up being a close game, then maybe my money would be on Washington if it's really close because Oregon hadn't had to do that. It's
been a while.
You know, they run away and hide.
Yeah.
And get ahead of everybody, you know, with the one exception when they couldn't pull it out against Washington.
I loved hearing Oregon after the game, after the Oregon State game, talk about this game. You know, Dan Lanning saying we've got unfinished business. You know, not really a whole lot of time to celebrate the rivalry win, his first rivalry win, by the way. And also Tez Johnson, who came out and said, you know, we really don't like UW.
No.
And it's personal.
Yes.
The way that game ended and them losing, he was like, I didn't want to talk to anybody after that loss. And so they get a chance to not only avenge that loss, not only win a Pac-12 title, but likely earn a bid to the college football playoff.
Yeah, most likely so. You know, when Tez Johnson was talking about it, I love the fact that he was respectful of the Washington teams. Hey, they got really good playmakers, but it left a bad taste in their mouth, and they're ready to run it back and do it again and get their revenge. Is what they're looking to do.
Yeah, I want to see whose defense can step up and cause at least some pressure.
Yes.
If they get to Penix, this game is over.
Yes.
If they get to Bo, I think that they've got a shot of winning this game.
Sure.
And I'd probably take Washington if But Oregon has done such a good job of protecting Bo Nix.
Yes.
They've given up 2 sacks all year, I believe.
Right.
Bo's thrown 2 interceptions all season.
So
nobody's really been able to crack the code. Even when Washington won, Bo still got his.
They still scored 30 points.
Yeah.
So, neither team stopped each other really in that one. It was last team to have the ball. You know, kind of. I mean, Oregon had that chance at the field goal, but, you know, it really was both teams going at it offensively, and neither defense could really get over the top on that. So maybe that will change. I mean, Oregon's defense, to me, has gotten better and better and better every week.
There was one thing that you pointed out on Sports Sunday in talking about keys to the game. You know, I wonder about what those 4th down calls are going to be. You know, I agreed with 2 of the 3 4th down calls, or at least going for it on those plays. I didn't agree with the one at the end of the first half. If I was a coach, you know, I would have taken the field goal. Would have taken the field goal because you got the ball to start the second half. Might have been some momentum there. I think I didn't really like the play calls on the other 2, but I didn't have a problem with going for it on those. And even the last one in the game, to me, it was a difference of if you punt the ball, maybe you gain 20 yards, and instead of it taking 3 plays for them to go the length of the field, it takes them 4 or 5. Yeah.
And you would have given yourself less time to move into field goal position.
And in a close game, you look back at that one decision, which was worth 3 points.
Yes.
That game's tied. They probably go to overtime.
Absolutely.
Maybe a different result.
Might be.
But will Coach Lanning continue to be aggressive on 4th down, or will he decide to pull back, learning those lessons from the previous game? It'll be an interesting storyline to follow in this game. But now it's on a neutral site. That should be interesting as well. We'll see how that plays. It'll be indoor, no rainy, crazy weather.
Yep.
And I'm also curious, Art, you know, we talked a little bit about this, and this will probably be the last thing that we end on. And that is the hot topic of who's going to win the Heisman Trophy. You know, like this is the last chance to leave a lasting impression on the voters for the Heisman Trophy. And 2 of the top 3 candidates, based on popular opinion, are playing in this game. And if one of them balls out and leads their team to victory, they could win the Heisman based on this performance.
I think it should be one of those 2. It should be Bo Nix or Michael Penix. And especially if one of them has a great game, it should be one of the 2. You know, the other guy in the mix is Jaden Daniels at LSU. LSU doesn't really have much of a defense, and they have done what they can to run up the stats. I mean, he was still in the game with 8 minutes left when they won a game 56-14.
Right.
He's still in the game throwing touchdowns in the fourth quarter. I mean, come on. If you left Bo Nix in the game, he'd have thrown, he could have thrown 7 or 8 or 9 touchdown passes.
For sure. There's been multiple games.
Arizona State, yeah. So, I think it is Nix and Penix, and I think you're right. Whoever has the better game on Friday, if they're able to really do something good, they probably ought to win it.
Theirs to win, and maybe even theirs to lose, because if you're looking at the stats, fair or unfair, because Daniels is gaining a lot of momentum, and you could argue that he's a favorite to win it. And even listening nationally to a lot of the experts, they're blown away by, the combination of passing and rushing touchdowns, and it's eye-popping stats, and he's doing crazy stuff. And so if Penix and Nix both have lackluster performances or just pedestrian performances even, that could crack the door open even more.
And I think too that playing in the South, you're playing in the Eastern time zone, where a lot of the voters are going to see those games. You know what? Every time Oregon plays at 7:30 at night or Washington plays at 7 or 7:30 at night, there are a lot of people who aren't seeing them play.
Right. Pac-12 after dark, man.
Right. You could look up the stats later on, but you don't really see what happened on the field. So this game being in prime time really helps as well.
Oh, for sure. And it's one of the marquee games of the day. And so Oregon has had the success of being able to be in a lot of those games. I think that really helped Bo Nix kind of elevate his name into the discussion. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
It is.
Pac-12 Championship Game, so much at stakes. The final one.
Yes.
Let's see how Oregon performs.
And you're going to be there.
And I'm going to be there. It's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to covering that game. I know the atmosphere will be electric.
Sure will be.
In a game with the stakes so high. So that's going to do it here for the KGW Sports Extra. Take care, everyone.